If you care about Cartoon Network shows and physical media and all that, just be sure to stick to the end of the video and share this video around, because this needs to get spread around. We need to start a conversation about it, and we need to make our wants aware. So with that out of the way, just let's get into the video. If you're a physical media fan, or just an average everyday just fan of just cartoons, anything like that, and you like shows and stuff, and being able to watch them whenever you want, then you're probably in favor of DVD releases for television shows. Now, as a collector myself, I want to get as much as possible on physical media, but there's something interesting. Cartoon Network has probably one of the worst release schedules. I don't know what you'd call it. They don't release much. Back in the day, they used to release actually quite a bit, and they were pretty good at it too. But then something changed. I don't really know what that is. But that's what I want to start the conversation about. I want to talk about this, because if there's buzz around this, word could get to Warner Brothers, to Cartoon Network, to whatever, and maybe things will change. But we have to show that we want it, and we have to talk about it. So that's what I'm here trying to do right now. Let's kind of take it back. If you're a fan of this channel, if you've watched me for a while, watched us for a while, you'll know I've talked about this in detail quite a bit, honestly. So, for example, back in the early 2000s, you got Powerpuff Girls DVDs, you got Samurai Jack, actually all 4 seasons on DVD. You've got things like Adventure Time, the complete series. You got every Adventure Time individual season on DVD, and most of those also got Blu-rays. And you had regular show seasons 1 and 2 on Blu-ray and DVD, and season 3 on DVD. But then it stopped. It stopped. So there's a couple arguments to be made. Well, one, because you got to ask the question, well, why? Why did things stop or slow down or whatever? Because then, periodically they'd release things like Infinity Train Book 1, Infinity Train Book 2, which was a huge surprise, honestly, to me. And then they released things like Steven Universe Season 1, Steven Universe Season 2. So the first argument you could make is, well, those shows were popular enough. And yeah, I'd agree. Okay, regular show, huge. Adventure Time and regular show were what kind of restarted Cartoon Network, because they went through that phase. They canceled Chowder and Flapjack, and they did all the live action stuff, and so they learned their lesson, or at least I think they did, and they stopped the live action stuff, and they got some really good cartoons going. Well, that's great, and that's fine, and that's dandy. And the thing is, we don't have the numbers, so it's hard for me to really say, but so it's like, sure, that's fine. But then why do things like back in the day, why did things like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, sure, that was popular, but was it as popular as Powerpuff Girls? You got Ed, Edd n Eddy. It's like, I've heard that's really popular, but then why did they stop? Why did they stop releasing after season 2? Why did they stop releasing Chowder? I thought that was a pretty popular show. Same for Steven Universe. Eventually Steven Universe did get a complete series set, but why did they stop doing season sets? And why did they stop with regular show too? So there's examples of where it's like, it's probably not just popularity, because there's other shows that are extremely popular that either never got like full seasons releases, or got no DVD releases at all, or they stopped releasing DVDs for them. So I'm just trying to figure out what it is. So you could say, well, maybe sales, but again, since we don't have the numbers, it's kind of hard to say. But it's just, they don't release anything. They don't. Nowadays, it's so rare to get anything. I think the last couple releases, probably the best releases in the last few years have been Infinity Train Book 1 and Book 2. I really can't think of, and I'm talking about like United States releases. There's some stuff from Australia that's awesome, but that's a whole different thing. But let's look at something else. Let's look at the Hall of Fame collection. Okay, they released Courage the Cowardly Dog, Johnny Bravo, and Dexter's Lab Season 1, all on DVD, each in their individual sets. Okay? And they stopped. I don't, and then they picked back up, but only with Courage. Which, yeah, Courage is kind of a popular show, but it's one of those, when I look and I think about Courage, I think of it kind of as more like a kind of like, not necessarily a cult classic, but I don't see it as something like Powerpuff Girls. So that's where I think the popularity argument kind of falls short. I mean, plus the other stuff I already mentioned. It's like, well, really? Is that really what's causing this? Because that got every season released and then a complete series released, which also just pisses me off, because it's like, why wouldn't you just make that complete series of something else? But it's like, were the sales really that high for Courage? Were they? I mean, I guess having the numbers would help, but I honestly can't think of much else. It's like, well, okay, if it's not popularity, if it's not sales, then what could it be? You could argue, well, they want to keep things for streaming. Well, sure, okay, but then you got to think about it like this. It's like, well, why wouldn't they want to double their profits? Because it's like, I mean, it won't be exactly double, I'm sure, but you can keep streaming, and the people who really want to stream will stream. Because here's the thing, think about it like this. If there are people who only want physical media, they're not going to use your streaming service, so you're not going to get them to watch. It's not like you're going to gain viewers if you just never release DVDs. But if you release DVDs, people who don't want to use streaming will buy them, and people who use streaming services will probably also get them, because I know there's a lot of people who are into streaming who also don't mind having physical copies of their favorite shows. It's just it's not a bad idea, because if you lose internet or whatever the case may be, or you need it for a place where you don't have internet, or you just whatever, there's a bunch of different uses for physical media, and so I just don't see that being an argument. I mean, I guess it can be, but it's like, is that really? I can't really know. I'm just trying to, like I said, I'm trying to start a conversation. I'm trying to speculate and try to understand all the possible arguments that could be made as to why these things don't happen. But I think the most concerning piece of evidence, or maybe not piece of evidence, the most concerning thing would be the fact that Warner Brothers has pretty much released, pretty much everything I can think of. Like any Warner Brothers show, like any old classic Warner Brothers cartoon, they've done stuff like the Hanna-Barbera stuff. They've released complete series sets for all that, like all the old Scooby-Doo shows, Flintstones, Jetsons, all that great stuff. Well, and you could argue, yeah, that stuff's really popular, but what about some of the more indie stuff, or not indie, but the less popular stuff? It seems to still get a release. Same with Adult Swim. Adult Swim's way better. So the thing is, what I wonder is, because I don't know the relationship. I don't know if it's Warner Brothers that's deciding, hey, we want to make this, hey, we don't want to make this, or if it's Cartoon Network, or what it is. Because you'd think if it was Warner Brothers, they'd just want to release everything, because they've been doing that with all their other properties. And you look at Adult Swim, it's like, well, okay, well, is Adult Swim in charge of it? I don't know. Maybe if it is up to Warner Brothers, then it's like, or Warner Brothers Home Entertainment, it's like, if it is up to them, do they just not see any potential profit from Cartoon Network? Because I guess you could make the argument, well, Adult Swim is aimed towards adults, and adults are more of, you could expect them to be more of collectors, and therefore they care more about the shows, and they're more willing to buy it because they like it. Okay, fair enough. Oh, but then you still got to make the argument that, well, kids stuff is insanely popular. If kids like a show, they're begging their parents for it, of course they're going to go buy a DVD for their kids. And it also helps that those shows are enjoyable for the adults too, and I think a lot of Cartoon Network shows are the case. And I'm in my late teens, and I love Cartoon Network shows out of every other network. And then you also got to look at things like Nickelodeon. Well, Shout Factory releases Jimmy Neutron, the complete series. They finally just got that. They've released Hey Arnold, Angry Beavers. That's a less popular show. So I don't know if it really has to do with popularity. Maybe it does, because that correlates with sales, I guess. But it's like, there's enough oddities that are like, is that really selling that well? I guess I don't know, because again, I don't have the numbers, but it just doesn't make sense to me. You'd think with the trend of all Warner Brothers properties pretty much getting everything. Every major movie gets a release. Okay, well, that's a given. Okay, but then why does like every Adult Swim thing get released? You got Primal on Blu-ray, you got all the seasons of Rick and Morty. Yeah, I get it. Rick and Morty is really popular, but you got Space Ghost Coast to Coast. You have all the seasons of like home movies. You have all of Venture Bros. You have all of C Lab 2021. You have, I believe, all of Harvey Birdman. You have all of Aqua Teen Hunger Force. You have like most of Super Jail, most of Squidbillies, or all of it. I don't really follow those shows too much, but it's like, really? Are those Adult Swim and niche shows really that popular? Are they really that popular that they're getting, these kinds of releases? And again, I guess you could still make that same argument that, well, because, yeah, it's a niche, but adults are more willing to, invest money in these things. I mean, those are the only things I can think of. So please, if you have any ideas, like, just write them down in the comments. I seriously want a conversation in the comments. Like, just things or speculations you have, or you want to build on something I said, please do. Because I think it really is a shame. I think there's a larger conversation to be had, but about just like censorship, about the way things are going. It's like censorship is a huge issue, but when you have a physical copy of something, they can't go back and edit it, and you have that copy. And physical media, like, sometimes discs don't last forever, but it's like they're most likely going to last your lifetime if you take care of them and you keep them kind of in a nice, cool environment, something that doesn't really get too hot. You're fine. I mean, they're really, and you make sure you don't get them scratched, and you're careful with them. It's pretty easy to keep those things around. So it boggles my mind. And like I said, it's really a shame, because more than censorship, which is important to not have happen, it's just fun to enjoy shows on a physical format. Yes, if you think about it in terms of amount of content versus price you're paying, yeah, streaming services are a pretty dang good value, I must admit. Like I said, I actually do have HBO Max, and it is a pretty dang good deal. They have quite a few Cartoon Network shows, and I watch them a lot, but they don't have everything. And there are some shows like South Park, they've removed episodes. They also, sometimes the internet connection's bad, or not, or I just don't have internet, and it's like, well, how am I supposed to watch it then? So, or if I want to go take a show somewhere else where there isn't internet, or whatever, like some other things I've mentioned earlier, it's like, there's practical uses for physical media, and I still think the market's alive. I just don't know why Cartoon Network is getting so neglected. Now, of course, you have Disney. Disney's kind of more apparent with what they're doing. They're very clearly trying to keep things to themselves. So I can kind of see from Disney's standpoint, but there's enough evidence with Warner Brothers that, like, to point to another direction. It's like, I just really don't know. Something I've also thought about is like, well, what about Shout Factory? What about all these other like niche kind of labels? It's like, why aren't they getting a hold of this? Could it be that Warner Brothers is asking too much, or have these places even tried? I mean, I can't think of a Cartoon Network release that Shout Factory's, and the closest thing I can think of to a Cartoon Network release is Home Movies. Shout Factory released Home Movies, which is an Adult Swim show, which is, so, I mean, they're not complete strangers to Adult Swim, Warner Brothers, that kind of whole thing. But I'm not, so it's like, is it that Shout Factory isn't trying, or is it that Warner Brothers doesn't want to budge, or they're asking too much, or like what's the deal? Then we have to look at overseas markets. It's like, okay, well, why is Mad Men Entertainment getting rights to release this stuff, or why are they releasing it? I know Australia's kind of a big country, but not nearly as big as the United States. How in the world is it more economical? How are they actually making enough sales to justify making these sets? Like, you get We Bare Bears seasons 1 through 3. You get Craig of the Creek seasons 1 through 3. They just released that. Summer Camp Island seasons 1 through 3. That doesn't make sense. I mean, like, are they really making that much money? So I just don't understand. And that's just going off the argument that it's about popularity and sales, because that's what you think of when you make a product. It's like, well, you think of, if they're going to keep making it or make more things like it, you think, oh, it has to do with sales and popularity, which, I mean, that just makes sense. But then, like I said, I presented this evidence that makes me think otherwise. I don't know. Honestly, I'm stuck, and I'm kind of frustrated, because it's like, and not even as like a super collector, like I gotta have everything, every little bonus feature. I mean, sure, that would be nice, but it's like, or every little bit of Cartoon Network media. It's like, yeah, that would be nice, but it's like, why can't we just have the main shows? Okay, fine, you get a show that only lasted a season, and really no one watched it, and no one knows about it, no one cares about it. It's like, I guess, but it's like, but why not your main staple shows, even if they aren't the most popular? But come on, I mean, I feel like Cartoon Network shows are pretty popular. I mean, there's quite a bit of nostalgia for Johnny Bravo, you know, Codename Kids Next Door, Billy and Mandy. I know there's tons of people talking about Billy and Mandy recently because it's been put on HBO Max. People are trying to watch these shows. I feel kind of stuck. What do we do? You know, I've had aspirations of starting my own physical media business, and that's great, and I actually do want to try doing that here soon, and like trying to start it up, but you know, it costs a lot of money for the machinery, so it's like you kind of have to stick with like DVD-R releases or Blu-ray recordable or whatever they're called. So it's like, and those aren't, I've heard they aren't as great quality as, you know, actual pressed discs, and you can't make as many copies as quickly. So it's like, but the thing is, I don't even know if I could even get the rights to these things. So it's like, it may take years and years and years and years of building up. And I get that's how business works. But even to get myself to the point where maybe I could try contacting Warner Brothers and see what the deal is and get some insider information and maybe be able to release some of this stuff. I can't be the only one who wants this stuff. I can't be the only one who's thought about doing that. And so if you guys have any knowledge, just let me know. That's kind of the conversation I wanted to have and start. It's like, why do you think this is? If we talk about it more, do you think there will be a higher chance that they could release this stuff? I mean, I do. I think the more we start this conversation and make it a mainstream topic, then the more likely they are to do this stuff. If you've made it to the end, thank you for watching. I know it's a super long video, but I just kind of start talking and it just doesn't end. I feel like it's an important topic, not just for collectors, but I mean, seriously, censorship is a big issue. You know, things like Johnny Bravo, it's like, it's a great example. That stuff, not very PC, and people wouldn't really like it nowadays. I mean, there's still, you got your nostalgia people who like it for nostalgia's sake, but you probably wouldn't see that as a new cartoon. It'd be considered sexist and you know, anti-feminist and, you know, anti-woke, and, you know, you can't have that in America today. So, you know, it sure is a shame. So yeah. Be sure to share this, please. I mean, I don't care. Just share it to whoever. If you just care about, in the slightest, about TV or anything, or any form of film, any of that, just I think this is a good conversation to have. So, thank you all for watching, listening, whatever. I mean, there's not going to be much, like, it's probably just going to be a background in me talking. I just don't feel like editing a shit ton. So. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.